Welcome to the 2400 Block Podcast with your hosts, Johnny Rubes and Ken.
Podcast spin, intelligence binge watch. Johnny Rubes with the wisdom, never botch. Dark thoughts ventilate, and crave knowledge. 2400 crew, like grip in college. Clever minds unite, discussions land tight. Sync up thoughts, intertwine, never bark trite. Mics up, lights down, we the crew profound. Johnny Rubes know the truth, bomb is going round. Catchy beats, the block that never sleeps. 2400 sound in your brain it creeps. Catchy sounds, the block that never bounds. 2400 talks and substance that astounds. Catchy beats, the block that never sleeps. 2400 sound in your brain it creeps. Catchy sounds, the block that never bounds. 2400 talks and substance that astounds. We dropping facts raw, no gimmick or flaw. Explicit mind grind, cats up in awe. Humor with all blend.
Good morning, good evening, and wherever you are in the world, it is the 2400 Block Podcast, and I am Kendrick Jackson. My co-host, Johnny Rubes, is doing the life thing, as we all should be doing every day. I think as podcasters, we're thought to be these people that are always on the mic, but we all have our regular lives. As we did our meet and greet, I am today with a person that I've been taking a little time to study because we're talking about retirement here, and this is Sharon Rolph. She is, did I get that correct? Mm-hmm. Sharon Rolph. She is a behavioral scientist. Okay, she's an essence coach, and she is the queen of courage. I don't think anybody's ever been the queen of courage, so you're the first. I guess you're the only one. I don't know if there's another queen of courage. There's a queen of England. There was a queen of England, but it's a king of England. But yes, Sharon Rolph, welcome to the 2400 Block Podcast. How are you doing today?
Well, good. I'm starting early. It's on Seattle time. It's 9:00 in the morning, but it's looks like it's going to be a little bit of drizzly rain today. I can see the ocean just a mile away here, and
I'm jealous.
Go ahead, be jealous. Yeah, God made us.
I'm a beach guy.
Abundant green, and we've got the Olympics and the Cascades and Mount Baker and Mount Rainier. It's good.
Mount Rainier. I have I keep saying, in different segments on social media, my truck driving. So truck driving, I've been crisscrossing the nation, and a lot of what I've seen is Oregon, Washington, apples, produce, and all that great stuff. So I am very familiar with Washington because that's where my trucking career kind of started, going up and down that coast. So I love that view of Mount Rainier in the far distance.
Yeah, it's to be treasured. And I think I tell when I drove Lyft for a year, I told people that we had 1,000 shades of green.
Oh my, you are so right. Washington and Kent, Washington specifically. I didn't know they had little, coffee. They're like little coffee in and out shops. A lot of that, and the greenery there is just magnificent. So yeah.
We're blessed. I know. We're blessed.
And you said the beach. I was like, oh my God, you got 4th Street and beach? Seattle. Gotta love it. So we talked about, in our meet and greet session, breath work. I think it's not necessarily a hot topic, but I think it's something that's kind of coming right along with meditation, the yoga aspect of mental health. Breath work, let's just take that, is how we live. Without breathing and water, we're a no-go. So I started the beginning series. That's a series that I well, it's actually more than a series. It's actually kind of like a mission. I've been through a lot of things and, been through a mental rehab process. And getting again a model that I came up with when you're in that moment when you're just stuck and you're like, wow, I don't know what to do. So every moment's a moment to begin again. Part of that was breath work. So I'm going to get right into it for the sake of time, and we're going to get into the 2 cycles of breath work. The breath work is, as I mentioned before in our meet and greet, is with Ben Holt. He's a breath work coach and influencer on YouTube, and I go by that, so I'm not really plugging it, but it's what I use, and it's a dynamic breath work, kind of based off the Wim Hof breathing. So I'll get right into it. And it's going to be, the breathing is going to come mostly through the mouth, in and into the mouth. And then at the top of the breath, after we do our last inhale, we're going to hold it and then bring it down on the exhale and hold it. I'm not going to do it for the actual times that they do it in the session, because some people, I'm not sure how you are with breath and, the cardiovascular system. But I'm just going to go light because we don't want to pass out on camera. That's not a cool look or anything. So without further ado, in through the nose. Out through the mouth. Kind of get the breath moving. In through the nose. Okay, then we're going to start the breath work cycle in through the mouth, out through the mouth. Hold the top a little bit and bring it down. We're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to pick it up a little bit. One more. Hold at the bottom. We're going to come in through the nose, and 3, 2, 1, into the nose. Hold at the top. Relax your shoulders. Any muscle tension in your eyes, mouth, nose. Sip in a couple sips of breath. And we're going to om the breath in 3, 2, 1. Back in through the nose. And that was the first round. First round's always a little nerve-wracking, and the second one's a little easier because now you've gone through the instruction. So we're going to start right back into it in 3, 2, 1, into the mouth. We're going to pick it up. Let's pick up the pace. One more into the mouth. Hold the breath. We're going to breathe into the nose in 3, 2, 1. Hold it. Relax the shoulders. Any tension. Take a couple sips of breath. Hold. We're going to om the breath in 3, 2, 1. Oh. Then through the nose. And just for a couple seconds, just kind of meditate on that oxygen coming into the breath, energizing the mind, body, and soul, giving us that refreshing feeling that we need to vitalize our brain and get us going in the right direction with an amazing life coach, essence coach. Get prepared for some great knowledge, great fellowship. And we can open the eyes. So, just a brief one for the audience and those that are listening wherever you are. Breath work is really good for the central nervous system, bring you from a fight or flight response into just a more calmer space, allowing you to be able to think clearly in your daily activities. It's also good for the immune system. Breath work is something that's not really talked about, but it's really imperative, and it goes hand in hand with meditation. And the reason for doing this, getting into a podcast, is that we're putting out information. You have a life coach, essence coach, putting out good information, and I want you to be able to give your best and your all. So, without further ado, who is Sharon Rolph?
Well, I started out being basically a farm girl, but actually first grade in I skipped second grade, so we weren't on a farm when I started school. But my mom had me hold my brother and sister's flashcards, 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thing. And by the time I started first grade, I knew my oldest sister's third grade flashcards almost better than her. So I was a lifelong learner even then. Why sit here and do flashcards when I could learn something, So by the time I started first grade, I actually was able to do second grade work after class. So I skipped second grade and went right into third grade. So then at third grade is when we moved to a farm in eastern Washington, and we had to clear the land and plant pinto beans and wheat, and then we planted alfalfa and
was there lentils involved in this?
Was what?
Lentil beans?
No, pinto pinto beans.
Oh, pinto beans.
Yeah, yeah. And then we planted peach trees and apple trees, and
Oh,
I
okay.
milked
Wow.
cows in the morning and in the evening, and gathered eggs, and actually got to raise a little calf for myself to. I could just put my arm around his neck, and it would follow me anywhere I wanted to go.
What was the name of the kitty?
Was it
You said a cat, correct?
a calf?
Oh, cat.
Baby.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a domesticated human being. I don't know anything about farm animals. No. A calf. Not a cat, people. A
Baby
cat.
cow. Baby cow.
A baby
Yeah.
cow, yeah. Not a baby cat, a baby cow. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we there's quite an education on the farm. Seeing animals being born and raising them, and every year we would order some 100 chicks in the mail. The mailman would deliver baby chicks. That's more than
Hold
you
on,
wanted.
hold on.
But
They delivered milk to doors. You said chicks. Okay, I didn't know this was going to be about farming, but farming people. This is you're about to get educated. Chicks get delivered to doors.
Well, and the reason we would order baby chicks in the spring is because by the fall they were ready to be our winter food for the winter. So we would get ready for winter, and the female chicks we would grow them another probably 6 months, and they would start delivering eggs. So when we wanted to make ice cream, we had our own eggs, and we had our cream, and we had our milk, and
Right.
life was good. Homemade ice cream.
I'm a trucker driver commercially. I haven't driven in about 2 years, but going through all the different states, you'll see that 98% of the United States is farmland, 2% is city. Now, in a grand scheme of things, we'll say, well, 2%, yes, all the farms deliver your food. Therefore, they're 90%, and you get 2% because you're just going to the store. So that's a very phenomenal thing, to be able to be in that process of where food is coming from and getting delivered to someone else's door. Not chicks, but the milk from the local grocery store.
Well, you learn to be responsible. The cows have to be milked twice a day, every day. And feeding them and keeping them, the alfalfa would, of course, feed the cows, but let's see, what else would be fed? We had pigs. Sometimes we had pigs, not all the time. But it's all for growing your own food and giving, the excess that you sell to the market. So we had, Dad liked his apple pies. So we had apples
Yummy.
that got ripened from the earliest of the spring to the latest of the fall, so he could have fresh apple pie all the time, all during the summer for a
Yes.
longer season. So yeah, we had to irrigate the alfalfa, so the alfalfa would grow and feed the cows, and all this, the cycle of not only our food but the animals' food. The water process was, we didn't have running water in the tap that you just turn on. We had
Okay.
we had we had to go up a couple miles and put it in a big tank. Anyway, that's a side trick. But
No, it's actually really interesting because you think about it. We are a society of convenience. We literally have food delivered from the store. We don't have to go shopping for it. You do drive-ups now. You're saying that you couldn't just turn the spout in water. You have to get a bucket and fit.
yeah.
That takes a lot of connection to your food and what you're doing.
Well, yeah, up a couple miles up the road was, I guess, probably 1,000-gallon tank in the ground, and so we'd take that and put it into our 200-gallon tank and drive it back down to the farm for our drinking water. And for the cows, and well, sometimes we had to use that same water to feed the cows and the chickens and the pigs, especially in the winter, because during the summer the irrigation ditches would carry the unclean water that's not, it's just rainwater basically, that it would flow through various little ditches to the point that it would flow through the chicken pen and the cow pen.
That's what those are. I've seen those, and I thought, is that how they're watering the plants? Does that go by? There's a whole level of ignorance that comes by when you're just traveling the freeway. And this is definitely not a podcast on farming, but the delight of a podcast and an interview session is being able to dive in the depth of a person and really bring out the storyline. Do you believe that farming beginning has lent itself to where you are now as a life coach and, speaking about life after retirement?
Well, what it speaks about on the farm, it's hard work, just like everybody's life is hard, but it builds character, it builds stamina, it builds trustworthiness. I know I actually got a scar on my head because my brother was playing around with a pop bottle and water, and
always will be boys.
And it broke on my head, and so you keep that secret. Do you tell mom or dad? Because somebody's going to get in trouble. Anyway, the values that farm people have is so maybe diabolically different than city people. To just now with so many things being delivered to my door, and I don't even have to go to the store anymore, is insane. Like instant.
I love it, by the way.
Instant, feed me. And there's a lot of work that goes into getting the country fed, and responsible people that are stepping up and helping you be healthy and fed. So anyway, the thing that about those early years is that I realize now as a lifelong learner, but there was also a negative thing happening on the farm in that I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to be invisible so I would not be a victim of the sexual abuse that was happening on the farm.
Oh, talk about it. That's a hard-hitting topic, right? Yeah, that's one that's really rampant in the news lines right now with these prominent figures. I don't mean to bring, P. Diddy being one of the latest ones in the hip hop community involved in that. So that's
the secrets we keep, both. Keep us stuck, perhaps, but it, and a certain amount of, I wonder if how much of a sense of control that you are over other people. My oldest sister did have a baby by my dad, and it was actually kept from me. It was, the family secret, and because I tended to be sensitive in my spirit, it took about 15 years after I left home that I allowed myself to ponder what did I not know consciously. And I remember reading her diary, and when she just 2 or 3 times is all, but it was when she knew she was pregnant, and she wondered what Dad would think of, the baby and whatever. So they put her off into a town about 40 miles away, I guess, in a basement apartment.
Was your sister was this off?
Yeah, my sister.
Wow.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job of telling lots of lies.
That's how you kind of have to when it's that egregious, I'll be honest with you. But it's very horrible of a thing to be kept as a secret. Very horrible.
Yeah, yeah. So I had been kind of watching all this over the years, and I thought, okay, if I, keep my head down, focused, don't rock the boat, be obedient, and get good grades, maybe I'd be safe. And it wasn't until I retired. Now, I was kind of aware throughout my career that I didn't really feel seen and heard or valued. I had a feeling way down at the bottom of my stomach, where I that sense of not being seen and heard, and a certain amount of that is still happening in my family. I wrote a book, and nobody said the first word to me about my book. So
And what? And that is that book the yes, the Fresh Courage and Retirement book. Talk about that.
Well, yeah, I wrote it during the pandemic, and I make these little art blocks. So I love sewing, I love color, and I love words of wisdom. So whenever I read a book, when I found a nugget of truth that I liked, and punch that you can remember, I would make it various blocks here with they're just postcard size, but
Those are beautiful.
yeah, so this is one of my favorite. Vulnerability is when the willingness to show up and be seen without any guarantee of the outcome. To me,
Actually, sometimes when you're vulnerable, you don't want to be, and you're kind of wanting to control the outcome because of anxiety. So that's actually an interesting spin on it.
yeah, to me, vulnerability can open the door to something miraculous. Now that's a pretty profound statement, but if I feel the urge to say something, and that urge I think often comes from your intuition or the Holy Spirit nudging you, lob out this seems like unrelated sentence that it might connect with you in a way that I have no idea how. But then it sparks your response with, "Oh, Sharon lived to tell about it. Maybe I can too." So I'm going to put some of my truth out there.
Yeah, it does create like a ripple effect. I'll be honest with you. Being a truck driver, we don't talk about stuff and get on any kind of platform talk about, and it's hard. But when and I'm not going to get too deep into mine, but depression and ADHD and autism and all, it took being tired of the prison, not talking about it, to be able to talk about it. So you inspiring, that's a very hard thing to talk about right now. You just came out with it that your sister had been by your father. I mean, what was that for you leading up to becoming a champion for human potential?
Well, from my teenage years, I remember being about 14, 15, I guess, and I thought, well, what's my potential? I wonder what my potential is. Kind of like a mystery. And it still kind of is, but God put a mystery
What am I
inside
here
us.
for? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I read lots of self-help books, and they all helped a little bit, And since they don't teach self-help books in school, And besides,
You're right. All these wonderful information sitting on the shelves, none of that is taught in school. And we are people that are living a life.
yeah, I live right across the street from a elementary play yard here, and I am getting excited though that before class starts, there's about 20 kids that are running around the track before school. They didn't teach that either, so something's changing.
Well, versus being, and I'm going to say this because, every generation is going to say, oh, you got the screen time and it's too much screen time.
Yeah.
But my son is ADHD and autistic, and he's taught himself so much in our digital age is where we're at. So the screen time's different. But the physical activity of the body is extremely important. So I don't go by the whole screen time thing. I go with his energy. So, if we do have too much time in games and whatnot, I'll say, hey, but he's a really active kid, so you're right. That running around is important.
Yeah, there could be in that little kid's solution that changes the world in the future. If they're so smart
Right.
now, what are they going to be in 30, 40 years?
Definitely not in shape if they don't get out there and take that screen time to reality.
So let's see, where do I go from here? Okay, so when I retired, I started my coaching school the same time I retired, and the first thing they taught us in coaching school was, in fact, how to write our essence statement, like, and they had other words for it, like authentic presence or true self, and I kind of have called it my invisible assets. What's inside is my personality, my talents, my things I love to do.
Assets. Yeah, I like that. Love it. Love that.
What do you love to do is part of those invisible assets. Sometimes they might show up on a resume, that you're responsible, or you love math, or it can apply sometimes to life and jobs. So, but to start the process, we make a list of 20 things you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was a teenager, I loved to got in the kind of habit of baking cookies. My dad always liked to have cookies and pie, or cookies and cake.
Two of my most favorite devilish desserts, by the way.
Or cookies, pie, and cake.
Cookies, pie, well, cake, yeah. Cookies and pie, yes.
So, let's see, what else did I love to do? Well, about the same time, now this is kind of a sidebar, but I shortly about the same time I retired, 3-4 months later, I was in a webinar of a guy in the UK, and he said, when you're facing kind of a tense situation, maybe you're going into a meeting, or you're going to meet someone and you don't know how it's going to turn out, you're kind of anxious about that moment, and he said, well, first call to mind a warm memory. Hold it for 15 seconds, and then go into your meeting or go meet that person. And his warm memory, he says, try to remember it in all the details, and he had always wanted to fly an airplane, and he learned how to do that. So his warm memory is a picture of his boy in the back seat, and he was giving his son an airplane ride.
Wow.
And, yeah, so he tried to imagine, what was the day like, and what was the wind and weather and all that. And my warm memory goes back to third grade, and I'd used it a few times in as an example. And so since I was third grade, I really was the age of a second grader. But there was a Christmas program being put on, and in school, they had for Christmas they had kids up on the stage acting out something, but I was chosen to be one of the 3 readers, and I thought, well, how do you be a reader? Nobody really taught me how to be a reader, so I thought, well, let's see who's in front of people and who's doing it right, So okay, there's the newsman. I'll watch the newsman, and what can I learn from him about being a reader, or the pastor, or anybody speaking in front of a crowd. So I learned you need to speak up so you can be heard, you need to speak slow enough that they can understand you, and you need to speak, and you need to look at the audience once in a while.
This is in third grade?
Yeah, second grade actually.
Is it? Wait. Isn't that in public speaking classes? That's a lot of pressure for a second or third grader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the Christmas program, people were leaving, and I had one or two people that came up to me and said I was their favorite reader. Wow! Somebody noticed that I had taught myself how to be effective as a reader.
Effective as a communicator. Because reading is communicating information, and if you're at that level at an early age, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So after that webinar, about a week later, I was making a list of what would be some other warm memories I could use besides that third grade experience, and I made a list of 8 or 10, 12 things. The shock was half of them of my favorite warm memories were in front of people. Was I in the wrong career? I did do Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters.
Dale Carnegie is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Toastmasters, for those listening, it's not a toaster, because when I first heard that, I was like, wow, people make toast and breakfast. It's actually a place to develop yourself from a speaking standpoint, a personal standpoint, and be able to be effective in your communication and position in a social standpoint. So it's way different than its name.
Yeah. So it turned out that I was in data processing. I mean, I remember the days before there was email, but I was sending files to another location, and I needed to put a message with that file as what was I sending. Well, I needed an email to say accompany that file so they know what to do with it or what's it for. I remember in the IBM Model 30, 40, and 50, 60. So
I'm going to agree with you. I'm actually a computer tech trained, but IBM, I don't, but I'll go agree with you. IBM 20, 40, 30.
Yeah, the smallest one was a Model 30, and then we had a 40, and I think we jumped to a 60 when I was at the phone company, GTE. Yeah. So what I was doing in my, I was using my brain and, sometimes a little bit of my brawn, but, in retirement, we were not, things may not be drawing our brain anymore like we did when we were getting paid. And, we probably don't need to drive trucks anymore. And yet...
And you retired from Boeing, correct?
Yeah, I put in 19 years at GTE, the phone company, and then I put in 8.5 years at Boeing, and then I had in between those I had moved myself down to Texas and did a lot of temp jobs, but those are the main years. I actually delivered mail for 3 years. Hey, stacking hay and having shoulder strength paid off well for delivering mail.
From this here farm girl, I don't have to worry about these brownie muscles.
So, but one of my, I don't think I have a block here. I have one that I made that says, have you forgotten who you are? Well, yeah, I do have that one. It's a line from The Lion King. And,
my favorite.
A lot of people, since they're not, they don't have a business card anymore. They don't know what their title and their team is. They don't have something to accomplish. They get stuck with, what do I do now? I started bouncing.
And you're referring specifically to that transition from retirement into what do I do with myself and my brain?
Exactly. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
Oh, that's absolutely the truth.
There are people, a couple people told me at Boeing that people put off retiring because they know they'll be dead in 3 years. Oh,
Sad.
man, that
Sad.
hurt my heart.
Sad.
Potential, we're all able to keep contributing, but if you see it's my time to, I've earned this. I can be a couch potato as long as I want. Well,
Isn't that the saddest statement? I've earned. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I think I said to myself, I want to work hard enough to be able to chill for the rest of my life. But I didn't necessarily mean sitting down doing nothing. So, yeah, I just chill, but productively.
okay, so here's a list of things. Now, my hot chocolate got spilled on my sheet here a little bit, but
Oh, no.
you get positive emotion from work from having accomplished things or being on a team that does good stuff. Your sense of engagement with that team is, we're all in this together. We're trying to accomplish a big goal here. Your relationships, maybe the people that you go to lunch with, or calling on your customers or clients. These are all things that come with your job description and with your title and with your team. It's all gone.
Yeah, you said something right on the money. We're pretty much conditioned to go to a job, take a break, take a lunch, take a break, go home. And when you leave all that conditioning, you were never taught, hey, enjoy your life, go discover something. So you just said it right on the money. That is your human makeup. So how do you replace that, or how do you manufacture that same thing?
Well, I see all this free time in retirement, being a couch potato and being distracted with all those movies and
An earned couch potato, by the way. Earned. An earned couch potato.
Okay, you're right. Okay. But I anticipate living to 100, and I am already 77 years old. I didn't retire until I was 69.
Gracious, you look amazing for 77. I don't think I looked up your age, but I was not going to guess 77. You look like you really have a lot of vitality in your whole presentation.
Okay, so when the first weekend in class, in fact, I even took the class. I told a story. I know when I told the story, it's like, should I or should I not? This is kind of putting myself out there, but I vulnerable. So
Vulnerable.
I told that I had gotten an email from my friend that had a birthday the following weekend after that class, and said I would probably wear a hat to your party.
Mm-hmm.
And her response was, "Oh yeah, you're probably the only. Oh wait a minute, my sister will probably wear a hat." Well, there's 3 or 4 of us that wore a hat, and this was my hat.
Ooh, the queen of courage. You get to have a hat to go with it.
So they actually invited me to bring it in the next day, and I didn't bring in one hat. I brought in 4 or 5 hats. So
I love hats, by the
every
way.
time we took a break, I would put on a different hat for a few minutes, and I didn't realize then that something was wanting to be seen. Now it took another time.
This is kind of piggybacking off of not wanting to be seen on the farm. Now that question is wanting to be seen.
Yeah.
And heard.
Yeah, you got it. So about 6 months later, we were in a weekend class again, and I was coming back from lunch, and I slapped the table and stomped my foot and said, "It's not okay to be invisible." Where did that come from? But it was my subconscious bubbling up, I guess, and making it more obvious, or more curious, maybe would be a good word. But curious is a very good word for everybody to
Yes,
use, because it keeps you young.
it
Imagine
does.
being a 3-year-old trying to open the kitchen cabinets and wanting to play with those kettles, you know.
I definitely imagine, because I see it every day. My son, he has he's mainly learning through touch, and because he's autistic and has ADHD, it looks like impulsivity, but really his tactile touching is helping him discover things much faster, process it much. I mean, you said 3. He's 6 now. He still doesn't know boundaries as much, but it makes me as a dad really focus on who he is as a person versus behavior. You mentioned being a behavioral scientist, but it's really neurological. This neurological differences in how we receive information
And
is
you're
a very fascinating thing.
honoring that, yeah, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'll be honest with you, it's frustrating when you're trying to understand your son from parenting, subsets that you're working off of, but that don't match him. And my boundaries and your boundaries are two different things. So I got to go, am I going to keep looking at it from those subsets, or am I going to try to understand him for who he is? The boundary pushing is something that has to be learned, just for the grand scheme of everybody in the world, but that's still his learning style. So honoring him and who he is, we mentioned getting down to the deep self, is something that I stand to be able to help him now, so he doesn't have generational trauma.
He feels valued, seen, and heard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just that question popped in your head because it didn't get a chance to be popped in your head at this age bracket. I'm so grateful to be able to have been enlightened enough to have my you said the warm mind, correct? My warm mind question was, what is this matrix, or so to say, how am I coming across, and how can I be better? And, that led to meditation and breath work and everything like that. But it led me to dig deeper as a parent. Because, we're taught as kids to be seen, not heard. And that is toxic, extremely toxic. And I'm glad in my lifespan that I was able to see that. I do neurofeedback. I do the counseling. I've gone to rehabilitation, and it has turned me around to be able to go at life live, using not old, let me take that, because we evolved, using information that is not serving my son, period.
So when I, about 3-4 months into retirement, I started bouncing off the wall. I thought, how do I know if I'm productive?
Yeah, right.
There's
That's
no
a
buzz.
question.
There's
It's a
no
real
buzz.
good question.
Yeah, so I had learned my essence or spark statement that first weekend of class. And I made a wall hanging, kind of like I do with these pretty things. And I had it on my wall here. And one day I came and read it 3 different times.
Your essence statement.
Yeah, my essence statement. And I finally, oh, yeah, when I live from what matters to me, every day feels right.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes kind of back to the values. We were kind of touching on values earlier, but
Yes.
when you need to know yourself more and get out of that stuck mode, You need to know what matters to you. That's part of your purpose and potential, and it might, in fact, reveal a path for you to go is in your destiny. So here's what I learned about myself that first weekend.
This is in life coach school.
Yeah. And so they had us standing in a circle and to read our essence statement to each other. And as it came my turn, I was noticing people were kind of sniffling a little bit. They seemed emotional as they did that. And I didn't know what was going on. But then when it came my turn, nobody's ever asked me to define my soul, is what it felt like. Here's what I read. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
You started with I, and I, it encompasses who you are, and I am solidifies this information.
Yeah.
So you basically said, if no one's asked me, the warm mind is like, me, this is who I am.
Yeah, I had about that same time I had gotten something profile results in the mail, and it called me an influencer. Who? Who's that? You got the wrong person.
Little old me.
I don't know what happened, but you got it wrong. I'm not that person.
You're like, I can influence my coffee this morning.
So I once in a while would start maybe, possibilities. Maybe I could be an influencer. After all, I did do my Toastmasters and Dale Carnegie class.
Did you do it in California, where it's based out of?
No.
Or just,
No,
yeah.
I did both of those while I was at GTE. One was during work time, and one was after. Usually, Toastmasters was after work. Sometimes
So it was a part. So GTE provided this professional.
Yeah, I think I had to do it during lunch hour, but there
That's
was.
still awesome for a company to do that.
Yeah, there a lot of companies have opened up that willingness to help people be able to express
Cultivate
themselves.
themselves, yeah.
Part of that communication stuff. So I got a phone call from New York about being a guest on a podcast, and one of the baby steps I took was maybe it's something about that profile that's right. So about 4 hours after the podcast was live, somebody called me again from New York and said, well, we think you have a lot to say. You're smart and, have vitality or essence, energy. So they talked me into doing my own podcast for just audio. And I did that for 6 months. And then I got with some ladies here in town that did the audio and video. And it was the Queen of Courage came from talking to people, and this guy that led a class in Brazil to help people learn English, he wanted me to come on and just talk about something, just speak English. Yeah. So the first time was about retirement, and these people were seemed to be around 45, 55 years old, so it wasn't exactly their retirement, but they may have parents that they could relate the subject to. Besides, they were just trying to hear my English. So he invited me back again, though, and I remember him paying me a compliment that I was one of their favorite guest speakers, And so the second time, both times they said, well, talk about anything you want. And for some reason, I decided to talk on courage one of the last podcasts I did, I was on courage, and I asked about 8 or 10 friends, who do you know that can talk on courage? And I thought, I wasn't finding anybody. Nobody was recommending anybody until finally somebody told me about a minister they knew that was quite fascinating and seemed very courageous and interesting, very interesting. In fact, I had lunch with him a couple weeks ago, and he's 91 now. And
Wow. Another legacy gem out there getting it. I was going to ask you, and I'm sure the audience listening are like, 77 podcast, life coach, Queen of Courage, all these titles, and this is surrounding on social media where most, yes, fresh courage in retirement. What does that look like being in a social media aspect, the digital world, where there's like people that are older, even 50, or even, are not even they're scared of technology?
so your question is how to thrive in retirement? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, it's thriving in retirement, but thriving in the digital scene.
Well, it seems like at least once a week I'm tripping over my own feet with all this technology. Every day
Okay.
something's different. And one of the fears of retired people can be that they have become irrelevant. So all the more reason that we bone up on how to be a good communicator. You know, when
Okay.
one of the ladies just met, I run a loneliness to resilience community on Wednesdays live, and one of the members that comes up real regularly, she's really concerned. She's got a consulting contract that ends the end of the year, and she's kind of like bracing about how do I be without this that title, my job. And she's very much aware that talking to her grandkids, it just seems to like irrelevant to them. So she's trying to figure out how to build that bridge to the next generations and be valuable to them. And
Yeah, whereas you got everybody now is completely on board with technology and everything like that, versus you were in your title with technology at work, but you're in your own life right now, bridging the gap.
Well, yesterday it was kind of amazing. My 91-year-old friend called me out of the blue, and he had, in fact, when I had lunch with him, he was invited to this friend's house that he had known for like 30 years, and his son and grandson were going to be at their house here in Seattle, and they invited Dr. Bob as a guest. And so Dr. Bob, when I first got there, he had just met with them, I guess, and he was kind of trying to anchor how valuable could he be to these teenagers. I believe there was 3 of them, and their mom had just left to live with a guy that had just gotten out of prison, and she abandoned them. So
Wow.
he wanted to build a bridge to these young people, and was deliberately, intentionally wondering about how could his approach be. And so when he called yesterday, I asked him how it went. And because he tells lots of stories, I figured that he would be, the meeting with them would be a lot of him kind of, he has an interesting way of not bragging on himself exactly, but showing himself as an example. And he said,
Oh,
well,
gotcha.
with the young people, you just listen to them. That's what's effective, is you just be in their presence with them and
Ooh,
listen to
that's
them.
powerful. And it's funny you say that, because we're talking about being relevant after being super relevant and having all these titles and everything like that, you just said something that would probably make a young person go, listen to me? Listening is how you gain knowledge. It's like being a wise person, but then having a young perspective.
Well, and it's a way of coming together and actually having a relationship. One has to listen while the other talks. Mm-hmm. So he actually called me back later, and I was on another podcast, I suppose, and so I'll let it go into voicemail. He says, "Well, I've got a New Year's resolution for you, and me too," he says, to invite 5 or 6 people to meet and just have a conversation about how are you processing, the new president and the new technology, and just eyeball to eyeball in each other's presence. But let's see. It seems like there was something else I was going to mention. So anyway, when I gave this talk to these people in Brazil on courage, they liked it a lot, and I was shortly about that same time, I was in a powerful pitch, 3-minute pitch or elevator pitch that you do when you're in networking meetings, and this gal is quite the queen of pitch. So she would ask some of us how, what are you known for? And this one gal she was known for walking dogs in her neighborhood, and she was the queen of dog walkers. the
queen out here.
Instructor, so I decided, well, right now that seems like the popular thing that people like about me was being courageous. So that's how I became Queen of Courage. But the phrase fresh courage came from a Hallmark movie. It was on a dude ranch, and they said, when you go home from vacation, you often go home with fresh courage. I had come to realize that I had more of a stronger backbone and courage, grit, or I think that the Jewish people have a chutzpah or something word that
basically.
Yeah, so I had more guts, courage when I went back to work after vacation to solve things that needed to be solved, or taking care of things that we put up with this for too long. Let's get it taken care of. And so
this is during your working career.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I when I heard them say fresh courage, you go home with fresh courage, that just kind of made me jump and pay close attention, because we all need fresh courage on a daily basis,
Yeah, I mentioned the begin again. It's very similar. In a moment, you've gotten tired, whether it be parenting, whether it be working, you lose motivation and then courage, especially if it's happening over and over. So yeah, fresh courage is extremely important to be able to get the motivation to do it again.
Yeah, so in retirement, since you're not the boss, since you are the boss now, you are responsible for keeping your life socially healthy, emotionally healthy, and physically healthy, of course. Now, I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, I can't do that anymore, Well, yeah, my hearing's not what it used to be. My balance isn't what it used to be. The friends you used to have either moved out of town or died, or maybe they've turned sour and cranky. It doesn't have to be you. You get to choose. And
right.
Use
on
that. Yeah, on purpose. So use that list of 20 things you love to do, along with what matters to you and your values. And my book is basically a do-it-yourself journey to finding your purpose. So I ask a lot of questions at the end of each chapter. There's at least three or four questions that helps you dig into the maybe a little research on yourself, so you help you remember who have you forgotten who you are. Dig up
And
some
this
of
is,
those
we're talking
memories.
about the Fresh Courage in Retirement book that she has out. And where can this book be acquired?
It's actually on Amazon. Now,
Okay.
I have a few copies here. In fact, one of my podcasters wants a copy of it. She hasn't told me her address yet, so I can't send it to her. I send it autographed. So I want to encourage you that there's a lot of life left, and to turn up the burner on your curiosity. And to me, possibilities and courage and hope, and they're kind of tend to be a little bit of a spiritual uh, tainted word. Tainted is the wrong word, but they have a spiritual element to it about hoping for something good and positive that
Hmm.
lifts your spirit, inspires you, and keeps you um, growing instead of dying.
What does your daily self-care routine look like in retirement?
Well, I have about four exercises I actually do on my bed that are stretching and for mostly my leg muscles. But I go out for a walk every day, and in fact, one of my delightful things I like to do on my walk is take with me four dog biscuits, and I look for the dogs on my walk.
Oh,
And
awesome.
they look for me too, actually.
Ooh, I got sweet, buddy.
So that's a joy. And let's see. The thing I'm still working on is being getting my feet in the sand and the water down here at the beach. For just being a mile away, I do not go down there nearly enough. And
Mhm.
um, the but doing what you love to do, that list of things that you love to do, you need to be working them into your schedule on a regular basis, because it's well how you love yourself. And I because of the abuse that had gone on in our home, they say you either respond in life is either being promiscuous or being overweight. And so I was overweight. I
Mm.
was 245 pounds when I retired. And that term you hear once in a while, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. That
Mhm.
was pretty much my feeling throughout life. But when I started saying, I'm doing the best I know how,
Mhm.
it shut up those critical voices in my head. And it helped me to start loving myself. When you um, acknowledge that we're all doing the best we know how, even
Mhm.
even my parents, as weird as that may sound. Um, so, but you don't need that critical voice in your
Let me speak to my mom who's in retirement. Mom, that means you. Your post Pat Bill in retirement and all the things that's happening. You are everything that you need to be the best you can. It's so much more life out
Oh
there,
yeah,
because I think this is a big topic that we talk about positive mental attitudes and things like that, but we do not talk about the rat race and what happens after that. After that, people are either going to have a construct of what dad or mom or other friends did, but you're literally talking about who you are. You have that in you. You just have to act out the warm mind.
yeah.
What is it that you want? So we're coming up on the hour mark, and I want to be able to punch hard into what makes you effective as a life coach. How has your position now, since the farm girl to where you are post retirement has been it'll help others uncover that. And what message would you like to leave today regarding joy and uncovering self?
Well, here's a book that I'm currently reading because I think it might help me, in fact, be a better coach, is Happy for No Reason by Marcy Shimoff, Shimoff. I thought it would be a book about, an inch deep and, 2 miles wide. It's not at all. It surprised me because she's done a lot of research. And one of the points that I read a couple days ago was about forgiveness. Forgiveness can keep you stuck. If you've held on for years and years about somebody offending you, you're stuck because you're not moving forward. So, what would it take for you to at least being willing to consider letting that forgiving the situation? Because even if you don't voice, please forgive me.
This is self-forgiveness, correct?
Well, both ways. Both ways.
Okay.
We make stupid mistakes, but sometimes you lash out at people on purpose, and then as the years go by, you think, oh man, that was a mistake. Well, whether you voice it or not, you can write it down, and then I've seen exercises where you actually burn it and let it go. But forgiving yourself is just as important because we're judging ourselves all the time.
Absolutely. Which is the reason why you're not going to be able to uncover yourself or have joy. Every morning is a ski slope downhill at 100 miles an hour for me because I'm not trucking like I used to, and I'm not retired either, but I am tired. So this retirement is a word that's really a mindset of being relevant and being kind to yourself enough to uncover this resilience of who you really are. I mean, it's a very powerful thing. And for you, you had experience. You've asked this question of yourself: what is this life? What is this purpose? You've been asking this question. So I like people like that because I'm the same person as people who are meant to come into Earth and raise the vibration of the Earth. Because we ask different questions than everybody else. We just are different people. We don't just go, I want my coffee and I'll have it. No, we're asking that question, but at the same time we're asking these questions every day about the greatest potential. It would be dismissive of me not to bring up, just really quick, the fact that your father had a baby with your sister. Is this sister or sibling is still a relative of you guys?
They're not alive anymore. My older brother and sister both died from accidents, and my mom and dad are both passed on. And
okay.
I never wanted my dad to walk me down the aisle. So I'm glad he's passed on, in a certain way.
Yeah, no, that's it's a very frightening thing to hear, but at the same time, it's a real statement. And I'm very thankful that you're able to open up about such a deep thing. This is a safe-based podcast, even though it's in cyberspace, but it would be dismissive of me not to bring it up and close it with something so powerful. But we're going to close out. But what is your closing statement for the audience and listeners at large?
Well, let me first mention that my Discover Your Spark, Rekindle Your Joy program of discovering your own spark is on the Great Discovery platform. So if you go to thegreatdiscovery.com and then either look for Sharon Rolph, Rolph, or
Okay.
the name of the course, Discover Your Spark. You will find a series of videos that I've done to walk you through finding your spark, your essence, what that intrinsic motivation that would flow from you if you knew it was the real you, and
Hmm.
that will unleash your energy and thrive through life. Okay, so my closing statement I like to use is that Thomas Wolfe statement that I saw on the wall at work one day, and it says, if one has a talent and does not use it, one has failed. If one has a
Mm.
talent and partially uses it, one has partially failed. If
Mm.
one has a talent and finds somehow to use the whole of it, they have gloriously succeeded and won a satisfaction few people ever know. I'm here to help 10% of the boomers find their um, glorious satisfaction on living from what matters to them.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a joy being here, and I appreciate so much what you are doing. And
Yeah, it's. I think I think when it comes to the human potential, it's almost a forgotten relic to talk about boomers and the contribution that they had. Because if anybody doesn't understand boomers, it was a booming. It's post World War II baby boom that was happening. That's why it's known as the boomers. But that mentality is why we are here today. But then at the same time, there seems to be this forgotten, you know, place for people that with that wisdom. And I love the mind. And that same person, 77, 87, 67, have wisdom, and that potential's there. So I'm hoping this podcast is able to reach those with all that foundational wisdom, reach it and respect self, and actually act on more mind. So that said, you are on Instagram and all the platforms. Where can they find you?
okay, so my website, you can find the same website either at SharonRolph.com, or you could use effortlessvitality.org, and they
Okay.
take you to the same place. And there's going to be soon to be a big revision on them. But I let's see. Oh, and my little art blocks are available on Etsy. So
Yes.
I made them to be art um, for small spaces like cubicles. Well, we don't use cubicles much anymore, but
Before you retire, you're looking at her positive stuff, and then you go to her as a life coach afterwards, or you can do both afterwards.
so yeah, I want to speak on stages, and that could be cruise ships or regional events. There's lots of senior living places around the country, and I'm hoping to open some of those doors.
And we can't wait to see you on those stages, because this is the kind of conversations we need to have for those wise minds out there thinking that they're not relevant. You're absolutely relevant. You're absolutely loved. You're respected. And we want you to be here talking to these podcasts about your storylines. So this is the 2400 Box Podcast. Kendrick Jack. Peace out to my people out there. And Johnny Rubes, he'll be back soon. He's just out there. He's actually moving from one place to another right now. So follow us, like, subscribe. Be well. And SharonRolph.com.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Oh, like and subscribe. Oh, what was your podcast? You have a podcast as well.
It's on Spreaker, Spreaker.com, and Transformation Talk Radio is where the others but YouTube, they are a lot of them are on YouTube. A lot of these Queen of Courage things are on YouTube too.
Yeah, I briefly came across when I heard your essence statement. So I was so thankful for you to be able to repeat it here. You wouldn't be no essence coach without your essence statement. All right, you guys have a great one, and we will see you out there on the light field.
To face unafraid, the plans that we made, walking in a winter wonderland. No matter we can build a snowman, let pretend that he is fast and proud. We say, are you ready, crazy snowman? The king of kings and kings. Later on, let us fire as we dream by the fire. Walking in a winter wonderland. Walking in a winter wonderland. Walking in a winter wonderland.
Thanks for checking out this episode of 2400 Block Podcast. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.